Hello everybody, Steven here with Cardboard Coalition, and today I figured I'd bring you a how to play of Monsters on Board. This is from Final Frontier Games. It is for ages 14 plus, takes 45 to 60 minutes, and it accommodates 1 to 4 players. So let's go ahead and jump into this. And as usual, I'm going to throw the box where it doesn't fall on the ground. As usual, I'm going to try to kind of follow through the manual to make sure we kind of get everything set up for you. If you're wondering how deep you have to dig in to understand this game, you have 7 pages to understand how to play it. And you got some extra explanation on page 11, and where's the other one? The family's kind of split in there. So you got 2 extra pages of explanation in here. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and set up is we're going to set up the main board, which is over here, right? This is the main board. All right, to do that, we place the main board down, which we have right here. We go ahead and shuffle the 42 tokens. So we go ahead and shuffle these ghost tokens, and there are little markers to show you where they go. But as we were playing through, we were talking about you could probably just put them anywhere. It doesn't matter. You see ghost side up, not used. But you go ahead and make your stacks of ghost tokens. So you could put it in any number. Each ghost doesn't really matter. So you go ahead and put those tokens out. And then you go ahead and you set 1 ghost token at random at each of these spots right here, which designates how much malice you have to spend. But we'll get to that here in a little bit. So you go ahead and set 1 for each space, which is 5 face up. Next, each player chooses their spook juiced markers. This is the deluxe version you'll see as I go through. Sorry, air conditioner again. This is the deluxe version of the game or the Kickstarter version. So normally you get these little wooden cylinders. These would be standees, so on and so forth. It's a little more deluxeified in the components. But you go ahead and you get your spook juice counters, and you go ahead and set 1 on each one. You got single digits and double digits. And you go ahead, and we're obviously set up for a 2-player. All right, and you set them at the 0. There's the 0. All right, so next you shuffle up all the prophecy cards, which I have in the box. I didn't actually get them out. Let me grab them out of the box. So you shuffle up the prophecy cards, which have this back. Right, and you go ahead and deal each player a prophecy. Now these prophecies are for no one else to see. They're just for you to see. All right, now that we have the prophecy cards out, we go ahead and we shuffle up the arch monster cards. We make a stack, and just like we did up here with the arch monster cards, we go ahead and set, ends up being 5 of them, but we set them out face up. And we have the malice counters. It's your currency. So 5, 4, 4, 3, 3. All right, you go ahead and you got that done. Then you place the Lord dice in the bag. So what are the Lord dice? I'm going to try to remind you guys of things that I had to look up a couple times. These are the Lord dice. Look at all those colors. I keep calling them starbursts. So we go ahead and set up the Lord dice. We get them all in the bag. Once we have those in the bag, then we go ahead and give the first player token to the first player, which is the last person to see a monster or to have watched a monster movie. So you guys can have some fun with that. And this, because it's the deluxe version, it's got this little, from the cover of the box. I wish it was bigger, but this is the size they made it. So we go ahead and give the first player marker, and same with this, it's just the deluxe version, right? So you go ahead and you take the round tracker and you place it on the 1. Once you have that done, it's time to go ahead and dive into setting up the actual player boards. Each player gets their own board that represents the town and the swamp and the driveway. There's their house, there's their driveway and malice and all that kind of stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and dig into this. All right. So you take the player board, go ahead and put it down in front of you. Once you go ahead and do that, you take a fearmobile I think you could just pick which Fearmobiles you guys like. I do have the deluxe version of these that was extra besides the game, but I went ahead and got the cardboard ones out. There's 4 of them. There's 4 players. They can each get one. They all get to play in the game. But to be 100% honest, everybody, whoops, hit the camera. Everybody gets to use the Fearmobiles. They kind of cycle around. It's just for the drafting phase of the game. I guess technically they stop in front of you so you can see it as your Fearmobile. All right. Next, you take the Malice Marker. In the standard game, it will be, I believe, a white cylinder. But for this one, it's these little hands. You go ahead and put it on the 0 spot on your Malice track. This is your Malice track right here. And these are obviously dual layered boards. I don't know if that comes in the base version. Then, after you put the Malice down, you go ahead and put the Grunts down. You get 1 of each color, which ends up being 6 Grunts. And it also shows there's yellow circles that show where they go, so you can place them there. All right, so you go ahead and get those out. Then each player gets 6 minions. All right, there's the 6 minions. After you do that, give each player a pumpkin jack die, and you set it to 1, and you go ahead and put it in the space that's designated for the pumpkin jack die. Once that's done, you go ahead and get summoning tokens, which are these right here. These are deluxe. They're going to be cylinders in the base game, and you put them right below the pumpkin jack die. All right, so that's the setup for the game. And you might be asking, maybe I should have started with, but I'm going to tell you right now. You might be asking what this game is about. Well, there's a couple of houses, there's a handful of houses in town. They're all deciding to have a party, and everybody wants to have the best party. Well, how do you know someone has the best party? They have the most spook juice by the time the party starts. To get spook juice and to be able to do other things, you have to send your minions, your minions and your grunts. These are grunts up here. These are minions. I keep mixing it up. I'm sorry. You have to send your grunts and your minions out into town to scare the townsfolk to collect up enough spook juice to make Spider Jack happy when he shows up. You can also get VIPs to show up at your party, which makes you a little more prestigious, but we'll talk about the VIPs in a bit. So, as I had said, there's obviously 6 rounds that you play through the game, and each round has 5 phases. So let's go ahead and jump through each phase. So the first phase is you go ahead and you grab dice, 4 dice from the bag, and both people do it. You start with the first player, you shake them up, you roll them, and you put them exactly how they're shown here into the Fearmobile, right, with the face up that it shows. Bloop, 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 bloop. And we're basically going through 1 round. Hopefully I can do it fast for you guys so you guys can understand how it works. Usually helps me to see the game played. I have friends who don't even want to know the rules. They just want to know enough to, like, we roll dice and then what do we do? All right, they just want enough, they want to dive in the game and then learn things. All right, so let's go ahead. All right, so the arrival phase is done. The car pulled up with the dice. After the arrival phase, phase 1, you go into phase 2, which is the drafting phase. And I'm not going to do this with any kind of thought. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So in this phase, you draft dice. All right, so once you pick one of the die, you put it in one of these slots here. Up on the top, I forget the name of that symbol, but that little scary monster symbol, I think that's Grunt symbol. You go ahead and put the die up there. Once both players have picked, like I said, I'm just kind of doing this randomly, but you're probably going to put much more thought into it. Then the Fearmobiles drive around. They drive to the next house. Then you do the same thing. You pick a die, and this player picks a die, and then they move again. They got to speed it up. You pick a die. Oh my, that's nice. And you pick a die. Oh, that's a nice die too. And they go again. I guess you don't end at the same house. Odd numbers. All right, and you keep doing that draft and going round and round until, sneezing dog, round and round until all the dice are taken out. The cars go to the left, or you can think of clockwise, and that's the direction they go. All right. So once that's done, you move into phase 3, which is grunt movement phase. Remember, these are the grunts. These are the grunts. Now, how grunt movement works is just based on the dice die's color. So right here we have red, and you can go back and forth, first player, second player, third player, how many other players you have, or everybody can kind of do this at the same time. Depends on how much you trust the other players. But how you go through this is, and you could go in any order you want to, but you take your red die and you see the red. You go ahead and just slide it down, boop, and you take your red person and they move, the witch in this case, red is always witch, they move one space. If you notice on here, they're down here, there's 1, 2, 3, it shows you which way around town you go, all right? But they only get to move one space, and we'll talk about the things that you can do to adjust that. When they are moving, if there is a minion in that space, say there's a minion there and red gets to move one, they would skip that space and go to the next space, all right? If you can have more grunts than these grunts that you have, and if there's a grunt in that space, so it'd be a red grunt. Let's see if I can quickly grab another red. Probably not. How do I entertain you guys? I do a super song with my silly, silly voice. That's how I do it. Trying to grab a red grunt out of here. All right, red grunt. Just for showing you guys, let's say this is here. So if this red grunt was gonna move, or let's go ahead and move it like this. All right, let's say she's already here. When she moves, because you move the red one, when red moves, they wouldn't go here, they would go to the next one. It's a way to skip spaces, right? Same with the grunts. If there was a grunt here and she was gonna move because you have red, she's gonna move to the next red. All right, so that's how you move, and you go this way, it kind of snakes down like that. Now, once someone moves, now I'm confused because I got more grunts than I'm supposed to have on here. What am I gonna do with this grunt? We'll hide it over here. All right, so when you move, once you land, you perform whatever action is there. Now I can go over all these actions. Hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it. The actions are on the back of the book, and we'll just try to go through them really quick. So you have swap 2 lords. So remember, these are considered lords. So you'd be able to swap them when you're down here. So swap 2 lords. You have plus or minus one of your lord dice, so you can take this number and go up 1 or down 1 for any one of those. As you see, that symbol right there. Actually, this one's not on the board, but you can get it in the ghosts. Can actually get this symbol. All right. Then you have this one, which is advanced the summoning tracker. This is the summoning tracker right here. And these images match on the board. These icons are on the boards and on the dice. They're the same icon. The only difference is on here, Spider-Jack has little vine legs. On the die, let's see if we can find one. On the die, Spider-Jack does not have little vine legs. All right. So, move the summoning tracker. You can move the summoning tracker. I'll let you guys read all these extra rules down here. This is a symbol, gain 1 grunt, you'll only find over here. When you land on this symbol, you can gain a grunt. Here's move a minion, right? So that one's move a minion. Then we have gain spook juice. That's 1, spook juice 2, so on and so forth. Then we have the Spider-Jack. And remember on here, Spider-Jack has little legs. So you can move Spider-Jack's die. You feed Spider-Jack is what you're doing. So you can move the die up by 1. Or if there's 2, you move it by what it says. So you can move up Spider-Jack's die. And last but not least is Malice. And remember, this is your currency. You can move Malice. Whenever you land on hands, you can move Malice. The other thing you might notice about this, red is always move minions, right? Blue is always feed Spider-Jack, so on and so forth. They're always the same thing. And it goes nothing to do, something to do, nothing to do, something to do. But going back to the grunt movement phase, so you move the grunt and then you do the action that's there. It's pretty basic worker placement on that side of it. All right. So once you go through this, let's go ahead and move Aries grunts. So yellow gets to move 1, so they get to go right here. And then yellow gets to move 1 again, so they get to go right here. And that I can plus or minus a die, but I have none of them in the swamp yet. And yellow can move again, so they can move here. And there's other reasons there's scoring multipliers that would explain why you might want to actually still move yellow and things like that. All right, and on this player's side, black gets to move 1 right here. then red gets to move 1. Woo! So I'm knocking them over. Red gets to move 1 right here, right? Black gets to move again, so they get to go right here. And if you remember, because I just showed you guys, right? We get to call Spiderjack, so we get to move the summoning marker up 1. And we can move any summoning marker, any of these 3 summoning markers. And how the summoning markers work, see if you guys can see these a little bit better. There's actually symbols that are in here. They're inside these little circles. So this row, the symbol is always Malice. You can get Malice. So whenever they land on that symbol, you would get Malice. Down here you have move, and the foot means you can move any one of your grunts 1 space. And then down here you have summoning minions. So if you move the summoning tracker down here, whenever you land on one of those, you can get minions. Now the one thing that they all do have is this question mark and a spook juice bottle. And what that means is when you land on that, you can score some spook juice, and it depends on how much you fed Spiderjack. So let's say, just for this one, I know we're jumping forward a second, just bear with me. So let's say that by moving, because he went right, oop, it's not him. We're looking at this guy because he went right here. I know we're doing on this board. Let's say we move the summoning thing for whatever reason, it goes to where we can get spook juice. What we would do is for the first 3 dice to the left, you can add up the spook juice. In this case, you would have 6 plus 1 plus 1, which would be 8 spook juice. Hopefully you guys followed that. And I know I was kind of doing it on 2 different boards, but that's what that does. His little marker here. That symbol. All right. Now blue can move, and I just like blue because, ooh, I like to drop him too. Because blue is a werewolf. Werewolf. All right, so blue gets to move 1. And like, I don't need this extra stuff. All right, so grunt movement phase is done. Now the next phase, I always have to glance at it because it still seems weird in my head. It's the Swamp Jack phase. So the Swamp Jack phase is down here, right? And what you do in the Swamp Jack phase. And it says you can go first player and then next to the next, back to the first. We'd argue you probably do this at the same time too if you trust the players at your table. If you don't trust the players at your table, or you have friends that you have to watch, right? Edit, or you have to make sure. Edit, audit is more audit. You have to audit. You might want to do this one at a time, but we kind of do it at the same time. But what the phase 4 is, your swamp phase, this is phase 4, is you pick a die and you place it anywhere to the rightmost position. So I can put this die here, right? And then you do the action on the die. So at this point, you would ignore that number again. And remember, at first you're just looking at color. Now you ignore the number still and you're looking at symbols. So you would do that action. That is move the, here we go again, the summoning token. You move it up 1. And by moving up the summoning token, I get 1 malice. So I go ahead and do that. And then you can go back and forth, or you can do it at the same time, right? And when you place these, you place 3 of them. You put them either, you could put them like that. You could put 3 like that. You could put all 3 like that. It really depends on how you want to put it, but they have to go in the rightmost free spot. So down here, there's no free ones. You couldn't have something like this and decide to put one right here. It just doesn't work. It can go here, it can go here, and it can go here. So that is the swamp phase, except for one thing. There's one thing in the swamp phase. Your 4th die, whatever your last die is, you go ahead and put it in here. That's your malice. And then you instantly go ahead and count your malice. So that would be 4 more malice, putting it at 5. And then you would put this in the bag. And you go ahead and say, I'm done. So let's just, I know we're not going through all the actions. I told you what they do. So let's go ahead and just place for them, place our 3. And then this last one goes right here. They get 4 malice and they go ahead and take that die and they chuck it back in the bag. And so that is what you do for the 4th phase, which leads us into the 5th phase, which I don't remember the name of the 5th phase. The 5th phase is Spook Phase. That makes sense, I guess. It's the Spook Phase. In the Spook Phase, This point, you do take turns, first player, the next, the next, the next, and you buy things from this board. And this is how it works. If you buy a ghost from the board, you buy the ghost, you pay the spook juice cost. This one's 4, so let's say the first player buys this ghost, 4 spook juice. They go ahead and give themselves, or they spend 4 spook juice, so they had 6, that'd take them down, or maybe they had 5, but let's say they had 6, takes them down to 12. Right? And then they would place this ghost on the board, and you place it matching the color that you have here. Now you can't place it where there's any minion, or you can't place it where there is a grunt. So you would pick an empty space and place it there. You could also cover up one of the actions that's already there. It just has to be any blue space because it's blue, and it can't be anywhere that there's a grunt. So let's go ahead and say, oops, he's right here. You wouldn't be able to put that right there, and let's go ahead and say there's a minion right here. You wouldn't be able to put it right there. You might not want to cover that up, so you just go down here and you put it right there. You could, if you wanted to, though, put it right there. Once you have bought the ghost, we'll just leave it there. Once you have bought the ghost, you go ahead and pick any ghost from any stack, flip it over, and put it right here. Now, if you were to buy a ghost from somewhere else, let's say you bought a ghost from there, you would shift these over and you would go ahead and put a new ghost down. Everything shifts right to fill in gaps, and then you put a new ghost down to replace the ghost that you took. All right. Now, the other thing that you can do here is you can, it seems interesting, but you can entice these VIP guests to come to your party. And you do that by paying the cost once again. So let's go ahead and say this player over here goes ahead and pays 3 of their malice, and they grab this creepy little spider one. This scores at the end of the game. So these cards score at the end of the game. They can go ahead and set it next to their player board, right? And then, ooh, there's monster glare on there. Get it, monster? All right, same as the ghosts. You shift these over, shift, 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 and you put out a new card. And then the next person goes. And this goes round and round until everybody has passed, right? So let's say on it's your turn, you pass. Then it gets back to you again because other people are still playing. You can do an action. It takes everybody at the table passing for this, the spook phase to be over. What happens at the end of the spook phase is you move the round tracker to the next round, which puts it at 2. And then you start all the way over again at the arrival. I had to think about it for a second. At the arrival phase where everybody gets their dice and rolls them and puts them in the spook mobile. All right. If you get to the end, you've bought any ghosts or any guest monsters. They're arch monsters, I think is what they're called. Once that's over, if it's in, remember you move the tracker. If the tracker is already on 6, that's the end of the game, and you go into the scoring phase. So that's how you get to the end game. The tracker gets to 6. Now I am grabbing this so I can make sure I tell you guys the scoring the right way. Oh, if I can find it, because I flipped through it too quick. All right, scoring phase. So the first thing you do on the scoring phase is you go ahead, and let me go ahead and add some dice in just so I can make a point. All right, we'll go like this and like this. Well, that's bad placement, whoever would do that. This will probably work. So once that's at 6, you know you're going to the scoring phase. The first thing you do is you look at your Spider Jack die. You see what it is. And this one has a 3. Any dice to the right that you have beyond 3, you get rid of, and they go in your bag. All right. So you go ahead and do that with anything. See how these ones have 1? That dice can stay. That dice can stay. This die has to go in the bag. Right. And then from there, you go ahead and actually start scoring. So that part is the taking away of dice. I don't know if they have a cute little fancy name for it. No, they don't. It just says remove dice lord. These are the dice lord of the dance. All right, the first thing you do is you look to see if any of your grunts have made it to this space, the 12th space, right? And what that is a multiplier. Let's see if I can grab one of these grunts that actually match. It's a multiplier. And so for every die or dice lord you have that matches a grunt that's made it to the 12th space, that final space, you get 3 points. So in this instance, if we were scoring at this point, there'd be 9 spook juice right there. The next thing that you go ahead and look at is you look at these prophecies, and no, I'm not going to go into them because there's a lot going on, but know that these prophecies have columns and rows, and you'll see by that line that kind of shows you. And if you accomplish what's in this case, each of these columns, you get that much spook juice. You would add it all up if you got all the columns. This looks like the one I was just playing. Let's see if this one has rows. This one does have rows. This one has rows and columns. This one's even fancier, right? If you achieve what they're telling you to achieve there, 8 spook juice, so on and so forth. So you go ahead and you score all that up. And then the last thing that you score up is any of the monsters that you might have. You look at what this says and you go ahead and score that up. This is 6 per, any 6s get 2 spook juice. This is obviously not the end game. You would actually, by the end of the game, you fill this all the way up. The only way you lose them is by the removal part of the game. So you'd go ahead and go through any of these arch monsters that you have and go ahead and add the score. Then you go ahead and total everything up, and whoever has the highest score is the funkiest, freshest monster on the block. And of course, Pumpkin Jack wants to party with them, right? All right, so that is pretty much how you play. There is certain things, there's clarification like I showed you guys in this. There's clarification for the prophecy cards. There's clarification for the arch monster cards, right? And then this is on the back. I do wish there was something like this for everybody to have, but it's pretty big. You can kind of lean it up or just hand it to people. After a bit, you start getting used to the symbols after a round or two. But you guys can go ahead and read into that if you like. But I hope you guys enjoyed this how to play of Monsters on Board by Final Frontier Games. I'm Steven with Cardboard Coalition. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.